You didn't just wake up one day feeling different. You were always different. But somewhere along the way, you forgot. You forgot who you were. You forgot the sacred fire that God placed inside you, and because of that, He had to remove you. You thought it was rejection. You thought it was betrayal. You thought it was abandonment. But in reality, it was divine protection. Every room you were pushed out of, every person who turned their back on you, every environment that grew too small for your soul, was orchestrated by heaven, because God was trying to remind you of something you forgot in the middle of the noise. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to fit the mold. You were chosen, marked, set apart. And when you started watering yourself down just to be accepted, when you began dimming your light to make others comfortable, when you silenced your roar just to keep the peace, God said, enough. You see, when a lion starts acting like a house cat, the jungle cries out. When the anointed one begins playing small, heaven shakes. That discomfort you felt wasn't punishment, it was awakening, a holy disruption, a spiritual siren calling you back to your original assignment. Because the truth is, the pain didn't come to destroy you, it came to resurrect you. Somewhere deep inside, you knew this, you sensed it. You may not have had the words, but your spirit was restless. You began to see patterns repeating. The same betrayals, the same disappointments, the same warfare, and while others moved on with ease, you stayed stuck in emotional quicksand, trying to make sense of the chaos. But chosen one, God was never silent. He was positioning you. The betrayal wasn't personal, it was prophetic. They didn't leave you by accident. They were removed so the weight of their opinions wouldn't contaminate your calling. You were becoming too dependent on people who had no idea who you really were. People who liked your light as long as it didn't expose their darkness. People who cheered for you as long as you stayed beneath them. But the moment you started to rise, the masks came off. And that's when God stepped in. He separated you, not because He was angry with you, but because He loved you too much to let you forget again. You forgot that you're royalty, that your spirit comes from a kingdom not built by human hands, that your footsteps are ordered, and your life is a living testimony. But God remembered. He remembered the covenant He made with you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. He remembered the prayers you cried in secret, the silent battles, the way you kept showing up even when your heart was breaking. And because of that, He called your spirit higher. You were never meant to settle. That job that didn't appreciate you, that relationship that drained your soul, that community that misunderstood your spirit, God had to close those doors, not to punish you, but to protect your anointing. Because if you had stayed, you would have forgotten forever. You would have forgotten the power of your presence, forgotten the depth of your discernment, forgotten that your voice is a weapon and your mind is a gateway for divine vision. You would have believed the lies they told you about yourself. And so God allowed the pain, not because He wanted you to suffer, but because He knew it would wake you up. That's what divine removal looks like. It's rarely gentle, often messy, but always necessary. It was never about them. It was always about you returning to the throne God built in your heart. Because when a chosen one forgets their identity, they become vulnerable to every lie, every trap, every counterfeit assignment sent by the enemy. The devil doesn't waste time on people who aren't a threat. He targets those carrying kingdom blueprints. And you, beloved, carry many. You've been under spiritual surveillance since birth. You ever wonder why the attacks started so early? Why your childhood felt like a war zone? Why people around you sensed something different even when you didn't speak? That's because your light spoke before you did. Your energy broke yokes long before you understood spiritual warfare. Your presence made demons tremble, and you were still in diapers. But as life went on, the world tried to tame you, dull you, distract you. The enemy wanted to reprogram you to forget the dreams, the calling, the inner knowing. He wanted you caught in cycles, repeating generational pain, sabotaging your future with fear. But God said, no more. So he removed you from their plans, from their games, from their expectations. He stripped you from every false identity you clung to just to survive. And now you're standing on holy ground. Yes, it feels lonely. Yes, the silence is loud, but you're not alone. Heaven has assigned angels to surround you. The Spirit is speaking in dreams, visions, signs. Your soul is being recalibrated to the frequency of your calling. Can you feel it? That shaking inside of you, that urgency to rise. That's God stirring up the warrior in you again. That's the breath of the Most High blowing life back into dead places. That's the Father calling you by your true name, the one the world tried to bury. And I need to tell you something else, something sacred. You weren't just chosen randomly. God planted you in a specific time, with a specific energy, in a specific season, because your spiritual DNA was designed for this battle. Even your birth month holds divine meaning. Those born in January carry the authority of new beginnings, leaders of spiritual revolutions. February births the ones with deep empathy and prophetic sight. March warriors are disruptors, God's earthquake to the enemy's camp. April children are flames, bringing both destruction to lies and warmth to the broken. May carriers walk in duality, beauty and boldness, silence and thunder. June souls are bridges between realms, seeing in spirit and manifesting in flesh. Each birth month is a scroll written by God, and your birth is not a coincidence. It is a prophecy in itself. So if you've been feeling lost, confused, forgotten, it's only because God removed you to reintroduce you to yourself. Not the self shaped by trauma, not the self molded by expectations, but the original blueprint, the divine being, the spiritual warrior, the chosen one. You are not broken, you are becoming, and everything you lost was never meant to carry the weight of who you are becoming. There's a reason your life hasn't been easy. It's not because you're cursed. It's not because you're weak. It's because you've been in a war, a spiritual war. And most of the people around you didn't even see it. But you did. You felt it in the silence of the night when your soul wept, and you couldn't explain why. You felt it in rooms where the atmosphere shifted the moment you walked in. You've lived most of your life fighting battles that others couldn't even name, and still, God kept you. You were born into resistance, not because God wanted you to suffer, but because He trusted you with spiritual authority. Many are called, but few are chosen. And you, yes, you are one of the few. That's why the attacks were so personal. That's why the enemy came for your mind, your health, your relationships, your identity. Because if he could get you to forget who you were, he could delay everything connected to your purpose. But he failed. Because even in the fire, something holy was forming in you. You didn't just survive, you transformed. The enemy thought the depression would crush you, but instead, it pushed you to pray. The enemy thought the betrayal would make you bitter, but it made you wiser. The enemy thought the isolation would make you quit, but it brought you closer to the voice of God. Let me say this with clarity. You are not what they did to you. You are what God whispered to you in the darkness. You are the result of divine mercy. You are evidence that heaven still writes redemption stories. And the evidence is everywhere, if you look closely. How many times should you have given up by now? How many times were you barely hanging on by a thread? But somehow, some way, strength came. You've walked through spiritual minefields, emotional floods, and mental deserts. And still, your spirit is alive. That is not normal. That is supernatural. That is divine favor. Because you weren't just fighting external battles. You were fighting things in the unseen. Some of the warfare you've endured wasn't even about you. It was about what you carry. You broke generational patterns by simply choosing a new thought. You shattered demonic cycles just by saying, no more. You are the interruption to your family's dysfunction, and you didn't even know it. You were wrestling with demons your ancestors ignored. You were rebuilding altars that had long been torn down. You were fasting, praying, walking away from toxic patterns, not just for yourself, but for generations coming after you. You were chosen to cleanse the bloodline, chosen to realign the family legacy, chosen to rise where others fell. This is why you felt like you didn't belong, because you were never supposed to. You were built different, spiritually engineered by the Most High, handcrafted with fire in your bones and oil on your head. And that oil, it cost you. It wasn't cheap. It cost you friendships. It cost you peace. It cost you comfort. But that oil is what makes the demons tremble when you open your mouth. That oil is what activates when you walk into a room. That oil is what heaven responds to when you pray. Even when you forgot, the anointing never left. God saw every moment, every tear, every silent cry, every fake smile you put on to survive. And He counted it all. Nothing was wasted. Not one pain, not one disappointment. It's all been recorded in heaven. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." That means even your pain was sacred. And now your enemies are starting to feel the shift. The ones who mocked you when you were low. The ones who talked about you like you were nothing. The ones who celebrated your pain, thinking God had abandoned you. They're watching. And what they don't realize is, you're not the same anymore. You've changed. There's a fire in your eyes now, a strength in your voice, a peace in your spirit, because you've been with God. You've walked through the valley of the shadow of death and came out carrying resurrection power. And the enemy can smell it. The same people who ignored you are now uncomfortable around you. The same spirits that once tormented you are now terrified of you. You're walking with the weight of glory. You are no longer a target. You are a weapon. God didn't just remove you, He refined you. And now He's about to reveal you. Isaiah 61 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." That verse is your reality. You're no longer hidden. Heaven is announcing you. Your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered. Your gifts are being activated. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your spiritual authority is rising, and those who once overlooked you will now be forced to witness your elevation. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about revenge. This is about revelation. God is revealing who you truly are. He's lifting the veil. He's showing the world what He already knew, that the stone they rejected, it was the cornerstone, the one they tried to break, is now unbreakable. Because you remember now. You remember the fire. You remember the promise. You remember who you are. And when a chosen one remembers, the kingdom advances. This is why you're being called out of hiding. This is why your spirit is restless again. God didn't remove you just to sit in isolation. He removed you to reintroduce you to your assignment. You are a light in a dark world, a healer in a hurting generation, a voice crying out in the wilderness, preparing the way. And now you're beginning to see it. Your dreams aren't random. Your visions aren't imagination. The numbers, the songs, the repeating patterns, you're not crazy. It's spiritual alignment. God is communicating with you again. Why? Because you're ready. You've been tested. You've been tried. And now the mantle is falling on your shoulders. This is where the real journey begins. You are not here to be small. You are here to shift atmospheres, to break chains, to awaken others who have also forgotten who they are. Your life is the sermon. Your story is the prophecy. And as you walk forward, remember this. Luke 10:19, "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." Let the world know you remember now, and no one can unknow what God Himself has revealed. Now that your eyes are open, now that your spirit has remembered, you can finally see what was really happening all along. This wasn't just pain. This wasn't just a season. This was divine strategy, a sacred unveiling. God was allowing the pressure not to punish you, but to reveal what was hidden, even from you. And what's about to happen next is nothing short of divine justice. See, when a chosen one forgets who they are, the enemy moves in quickly to steal their voice, to distort their vision, to twist their identity. But when God steps back into the scene and reminds that soul of its true power, everything that was sent to destroy them must now be reversed. Yes, a reversal is coming. The shame you carried in silence, it's about to become your story of glory. The wounds that made you question your worth, they're about to become healing wells for others. The betrayals that cut you deep, God is flipping the script. What they meant for evil, God is turning it for good. Genesis 50:20 declares it plainly. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Let that truth settle into your bones, because you didn't just survive those attacks, you carried divine intelligence out of them. You now know how the enemy moves. You now know how people mask their envy with fake love. You now know how to discern spirits before they speak a word. That pain wasn't wasted. It trained you. And now heaven is about to vindicate you. Let's be honest. Some of those betrayals still sting. You forgave, but the scar remains. You released it, but the memory visits you in quiet moments. But hear this clearly. God saw what they did. Every word they spoke in secret, every lie, every manipulation, every act of sabotage. He saw it all. Hebrews 4:13 says, "Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of Him to whom we must give account." They thought they got away with it. They thought you'd stay down forever, but they didn't realize you were a seed, and God specializes in resurrecting what people tried to bury. You've been quiet long enough. You've been humble long enough. Now it's time to walk in the fullness of who you are without apology. No more shrinking, no more hiding, no more begging for validation from those who never saw you. This is your season of reversal. Where you were overlooked, you will now be honored. Where you were mocked, you will now be magnified. Where you were last, you are about to be brought forward. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Matthew 20:16. But this is not a moment to gloat. This is a moment to rise with integrity. Because this elevation is sacred. This is not a performance. This is a divine unveiling. The fruit of your suffering is not just success. It's wisdom, compassion, power. You now carry the fragrance of fire. People will sense that you've been through something deep, but they won't be able to define you by it, because you don't look like what you went through. And still, you carry proof. Proof that God restores what was broken. Proof that He lifts the humble. Proof that He keeps His promises, even when the path is painful. You are walking, breathing evidence that grace still finds those who have been forgotten by man. Let me speak to your soul now in case it's still healing. You didn't deserve the pain. You didn't earn the betrayal. You weren't being punished. You were being purified. God was never trying to destroy you. He was clearing the rubble so you could see the foundation He laid beneath it all. And the foundation is unshakable. Psalm 18:2 says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge." You may have lost people. You may have lost seasons. You may have lost yourself for a moment, but you never lost God. He was always there. In the night when you couldn't sleep, in the moments when your breath was shallow and your thoughts raced, in the times you were surrounded by people and still felt alone. That presence, that whisper, that peace, that was God. And now, He's about to restore you in front of the very ones who said you'd never recover. You won't need to explain anything. You won't need to seek revenge. Your life will be the sermon. Your glow will be the prophecy fulfilled. They will watch the hand of God rest on you, and there will be no denying that you were chosen from the beginning. So lift your head. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are not too late. You are exactly where God needs you to be, finally awake, finally remembering, finally ready. And from this moment on, everything changes. No more doubting the voice inside you. No more second-guessing your worth. No more playing small. God didn't bring you this far to leave you confused. You are entering a season of spiritual clarity, supernatural confidence, and divine compensation. Joel 2:25 is your promise. I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten. He's restoring it all, the lost time, the missed opportunities, the stolen joy, but what he gives you in return will be greater than what was taken. Because now, you know who you are, and when a chosen one walks in remembrance, the world must respond. But don't just sit on this. You're not here just to be encouraged. You're here to move. This is your call to action. Speak what God has put inside of you. Share your voice. Build what he told you to build. Pray without fear. Worship without shame. Step into rooms with boldness. Make decisions from a place of divine identity, not from fear of rejection. Because now you know the removal was for your rebirth. You didn't lose your life. You found it. You didn't lose yourself. You rediscovered the version that was always hidden beneath survival. And now that the old version is gone, the real, you can finally rise. You are the one your bloodline prayed for. You are the dream of your ancestors. You are the proof that God still rescues, still revives, still reveals. And your life is about to touch more than you ever imagined. So say this aloud. I remember who I am. I forgive who I was. And I walk forward in who I'm becoming. This is your spiritual rebirth. This is your justice. This is your moment. Now that you're beginning to understand the weight of your calling, let's dig even deeper. You need to see this clearly, not just from an emotional level, but from a spiritual and divine perspective. Because the attacks weren't random. The patterns weren't coincidental, and the pain wasn't just life being unfair. It was coded. It was divine law in motion. It was heaven revealing to you the paradox of being chosen. Let me explain something the world never taught you. When God selects a soul for high purpose, he allows it to be crushed before it can be crowned. Why? Because unbroken vessels leak, and God needed to seal you with fire, not applause. The crushing wasn't to destroy you, it was to press the oil from your life. The same way olives are crushed to release their richness, you too were pressed. Pressed by betrayal, pressed by rejection, pressed by isolation. But in the pressing, you found God in ways that comfort could never reveal. This is the paradox. Elevation comes after humiliation. Strength rises from brokenness. The crown doesn't come before the cross. Jesus himself had to be betrayed before he was glorified. He had to be mocked, spit on, misunderstood by those closest to him. He had to be removed from the crowds, from the temple, from even his own disciples, because sometimes removal is the holiest act of God's hand. Now let's break down why the attacks came the way they did. You were attacked early because you were marked early. Before you even understood your name, hell recognized your assignment. That's why your childhood may have been full of confusion, pain, or abandonment. That's why you were always too sensitive, too intense, or too much. The enemy saw the light before you could speak it, so he tried to traumatize you before you could activate it. He wanted to twist your reflection before you looked in the mirror. If he could fracture your identity young, he knew you'd spend your life trying to fix what wasn't broken, never realizing you were already chosen. This is spiritual warfare 101. If the enemy can't destroy your future, he'll try to make you doubt it. And doubt is the first step toward disobedience. Now consider the people around you, those who hurt you, the ones who misused your kindness, the ones who drained your spirit. Don't hate them, understand them. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because your presence confronted their hidden darkness. Your truth exposed their deception. Your peace unsettled their chaos. People don't always hate you for what you do. They hate you for who you remind them they're not ready to be. You carried light in a world that made a home in shadows. That's why they misunderstood you. That's why your loyalty was taken for granted. That's why you were accused when you were innocent, silenced when you told the truth. and left alone when you needed the most support. It wasn't just human behavior, it was spiritual resistance. But here's where God flips the script. He allowed it so you could learn to discern. Discernment isn't just about reading people, it's about recognizing spirits. The people who hurt you were often under the influence of something deeper. Spirits of envy, spirits of fear, spirits of confusion. They weren't equipped to handle your light, and rather than admit that, they tried to dim it. But the more they pressed, the brighter you became. And God used every bit of it to reconnect you to your divine mission. He let them mock you so you could stop craving their approval. He let them reject you so you could learn to stand alone. He let them lie on you so you'd learn the truth was never meant to be validated by crowds. You see, He removed you not just to protect your purpose, but to protect your memory of who you really are. Because when you're surrounded by those who profit from your forgetting, God will isolate you to restore your sight. He'll take you out of the crowd to recalibrate your spirit. He'll close every door you begged Him to open until you realize you were the door. So when you ask, "Why me?" understand this. God never removed you to punish you. He removed you to realign you. Like Joseph, who was sold by his brothers and thrown into prison, forgotten and falsely accused. What looked like injustice was God positioning him to become second in command in Egypt. Joseph didn't just survive betrayal, he was prepared by it. Genesis 45:7 says, "But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance." Joseph realized his suffering had a divine assignment, and so does yours. You're not just going through things, you're growing through revelation. You're not just being broken, you're being built. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And soon your life will bloom in ways that only pain could have fertilized. Let's talk about the psychology of what you've endured. When people see something powerful in you before you see it yourself, they do one of two things. They nurture it or they try to kill it. Unfortunately, most of the world is not spiritually mature enough to nurture the greatness in others. Instead, they project their insecurity, throw subtle shade, and make you question your own reflection. But chosen one, don't absorb their confusion, observe it. When you carry something divine, you're going to feel misunderstood. But remember, Noah built an ark under mockery. David was overlooked by his own father. Esther hid her identity until the right time, and Jesus, even Jesus, was not honored in his own hometown. So stop seeking affirmation from the ones assigned to misunderstand you. Instead, align with what God has already said, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139:14, that He has plans to prosper you, not to harm you, Jeremiah 29:11, that He knew you before you were formed, Jeremiah 1:5, that He chose you not after you got it all together, but while you were still in the process. Now it's time to walk with authority. The same people who laughed will have to watch God lift you. The same environments that rejected you will need your wisdom. The same people who threw dirt on your name will one day say, "We knew them when..." But by then, you won't need applause. You'll be too busy fulfilling prophecy. This is what it means to be chosen. It means you'll lose some people, but you'll gain your soul. It means you'll walk alone, but you'll walk with angels. It means you'll suffer, but the suffering will birth glory. Romans 8:18 reminds you, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." You carry glory, glory that can't be tainted by gossip, glory that can't be robbed by fear, glory that came through the fire and lived to tell the story. And now you've remembered who you are, what you carry, why you were removed. So now, chosen one, what will you do with the power you've reclaimed? Breathe, just take a deep breath. Let the silence speak to you. Let the stillness hold you for a moment, because right now, you're standing on sacred ground. Not a place made of dirt and stone, but a place inside your soul where God has rebuilt you from the rubble. You've walked through the fire and didn't burn. You've stood in storms that should have drowned you. You've survived betrayals, heartaches, abandonment, loneliness, yet here you are, stronger, wiser, cleaner in your spirit, healed in your heart, and above all, finally remembering who you truly are. You are the chosen one, not because you asked for it, not because you were better than anyone else, but because God looked at your soul and saw something most people never did: obedience, even in pain, surrender, even in silence. You were willing to lose everything, and in that willingness, God found a vessel he could trust. And when God can trust you, he begins to reveal destiny on a level that the world can't comprehend. You now carry something holy, not a title, not a platform, not a performance, but a presence. A deep, quiet, immovable authority that only comes when you've died to who they said you were and rose into who God said you always were. You are not just called to survive anymore. You are called to lead, to shine, to break chains, to walk into places and shift the entire atmosphere without saying a word. You are called to speak and demons flee, to pray and heavens move, to love and strongholds collapse. But with that calling comes responsibility. You must now protect your peace like a sacred temple. Guard your mind like it's the gate to heaven, because it is. You must watch what you say, how you speak, what you agree with. You no longer have the luxury of spiritual laziness. Too many are watching, too many are waiting, too many are suffering silently, needing someone to stand up and show them what divine recovery looks like. And you are that someone. You're not just chosen for yourself. You're chosen for your bloodline, for your children, for your future children, for the ones who couldn't break the curse, but prayed for someone in the family who would. And you are the answer to that prayer. Let that sink in. You are the answer to someone's desperation, to someone's confusion, to someone's quiet cry at 2 a.m. Your scars are sermons. Your journey is a prophecy fulfilled. Your survival is a testimony of God's grace. So walk like it, speak like it, think like it, live like it. You didn't go through everything just to return to who you were. You went through it to become who God always intended you to be. This is not about revenge. It's not about applause. It's not even about proving them wrong. It's about fulfilling heaven's blueprint over your life. And if you ever feel unworthy, remember this: David was overlooked. Joseph was rejected. Esther was hidden. Moses stuttered. Jeremiah wept. Jesus was crucified. But none of them were forgotten. Neither are you. You're part of a lineage of warriors, prophets, priests, kings, and intercessors. Heaven's royal blood runs through your veins. You were not designed to fit in. You were anointed to stand out. You were not born to be quiet. You were born to roar. So don't retreat now. Don't fall back into old habits, old mindsets, old survival patterns. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't silence your voice just to be accepted. Don't pretend to be less powerful just to fit into rooms God has already outgrown on your behalf. Instead, take sacred action. Pray without apology. Speak with fire. Love with boundaries. Build what God told you to build. Create what He's placed on your heart. Forgive so your hands are free to receive. Fast. Worship. Intercede. Stay in the Word like it's your breath, because it is. This is the season of sacred restoration. Everything the enemy tried to destroy, God is rebuilding better. Your mind is coming back stronger. Your heart is soft again, but this time with wisdom. Your discernment is razor sharp. Your peace is non-negotiable. Your vision is prophetic. You no longer guess who you are, you know. Isaiah 43:1 says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." That's what God is saying to you now. You are His. He removed you from their hands, from their lies, from their version of you, so He could hold you, cleanse you, heal you, and reintroduce you to the world on His terms, not theirs. So rise now, not with anger, but with awe. You've been chosen to carry something eternal, to be a light in an age of shadows, to break chains with your voice, with your art, with your presence, to restore what others broke, to lead souls home, not to religion, but to relationship, not to performance, but to presence, not to fear, but to faith. You remember now, and the world is about to see what God always knew. So go ahead, walk in it, not pridefully, but prophetically, not arrogantly, but anointed. You've been removed to be restored. You've been forgotten by them, so you could be remembered by Him. And now, chosen one, the crown fits. The fire burns. The path is clear. The time is now. You are ready. May your steps be ordered. May your peace be permanent. May your legacy be holy. May your life be proof that God still removes so He can restore. Amen. Final scripture, Romans 8:30. And those He predestined, He also called. Those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified. You've been called. You've been justified. And now it's time to be glorified.